Okay, Jingle, what'd you find over there?
It looks like mostly all of the little things around the circle has yellow, like the same
Okay,
color.
so you're looking inside the flower.
Yep.
And, oh, that's tiny, yeah. The flower's already fallen off. How big is it? And when you say tiny, how big is that? If you look down here, look how much bigger the bolls are down at the bottom. We're exploring a mature cotton field in Huron, California, in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley. As far as I can see, miles and miles, there are millions and millions of cotton plants. My name is Cheryl Mercier, and these are some of my students. This is Jingle.
Hi.
Christina.
Hi.
Tim.
Hi.
And Jonathan.
Hi.
Our classroom is in Fresno, California, about 30 miles that way. I'm sure you can find us on a map. Now, you're invited to take a video field trip with us into this land of cotton. If you happen to live in a place where cotton is grown, then you live in something called the Cotton Belt, and you can think of that as a belt of land that goes around the earth. The climate is right for cotton to grow at the latitudes 45 degrees north and 30 degrees south of the equator. What do you know about cotton?
I know that plants grow from a seed.
I know that the green chlorophyll from the leaves makes food for the plant.
I know that the plant has a root under the soil. It needs light, energy, water, and soil to grow.
Good. Well, I've been doing research about cotton, and I have found out so many interesting things. You're going to experience so much out here. I mean, first you take the seed, you put it in the soil, and then you got to irrigate it. And once it starts growing, well, then the pests come in, so you got to manage the pests. And then when it's time to harvest, you bring in these monstrous machines that look like they
Miss Mercier, you're just so crazy about cotton.
Well, almost everything I have on today is made out of cotton, from my shoes to my jeans to my shirt, my hat. Even the sheets I slept on and the pajamas I wore last night were made out of soft cotton. Last week we did a survey in my class. We found out that 85% of our students had on cotton material that day. You do the same thing. Compare your results to ours. Take a poll. Make sure you check the labels to find out the material.
Car 2 to car 15.
Go ahead.
The group you are to meet are waiting for you in the west field.
Thanks, I see him now.
Okay, car 2 clear.
15 clear.
Okay.
Well, hello. Welcome to Airway Farms.
Hi, we're glad to be here. Kids, this is Mr. Renna. He's an agronomist for the farm.
What does an agronomist do?
Well, agronomist manages the land. He manages the soil and the plants that are grown in it.
Well, while we were waiting for you, we were exploring some of the plants, and we've got some questions for you.
How long does it take for plants to grow up?
A cotton plant takes from seed to harvest about 25 weeks. The seed has stored energy inside for growth when the conditions are right. The seeds are planted to moisture, then the seed coat swells and bursts. The root grows down and the stem grows up and breaks the surface of the soil. Cotyledon leaves that were inside the seeds open and start making food for the plant to grow. Once the energy inside the seed is used up, the root develops a taproot that grows down and branches out, while the first true leaves grow. The seedlings are on their way to becoming a mature plant.
Like those?
Yeah, like those. You want to go take a closer look?
Sure.
This is a mature cotton plant. It has both vegetative and fruiting branches where the bolls grow.
Fruiting branches, do you mean like apples and peaches?
That's correct. The cotton boll starts out as a square. Inside the square is a small bud that develops into a flower. Once the flower is pollinated, then a small boll is formed. As it grows, it develops into a mature boll, which contains the seed where the fiber is.
Don't the stamens of the flowers have sacs on their tips that contain the pollen?
Yes, they do. And here they are right here. The stamens have the pollen, which is transferred to the stigma, which then moves down into the ovaries, which then creates the seed.
What happens then?
After the ovules are fertilized, they swell over the seed to form the boll. The flower stays open for a very short time. It usually opens early in the morning, pollinates itself, and then closes up and shrivels, turns pink, and by the next day the petals will fall on the ground.
What does the inside of a bowl look like?
Well, let's take a look and see. Here's a mature boll, and we'll cut it open. Here's the seed that was inside the ovaries, and then connected to the seed is the fiber. That slimy white stuff, which will dry and open into an open boll. After the boll is matured, it then opens and exposes the fiber to the sun.
So where are all the seeds?
The seed is connected to the fiber inside the boll. Here, why don't you all take a bowl and see for yourself. Now count the seeds.
While they're gathering data, let's take a closer look at an open cotton boll. When the lint dries out, it splits open. The boll splits open along these lines called sutures. You can even see the dried bract from the original square. Now, as these carpels dry and wither up, in this state they're called the burr. The burr holds the cotton into sections. We call each one of these sections a lock. If I pull out one of the locks, and this happens to be a 4-lock boll, I can feel the hard seeds inside. You have to remember that the lint actually grows from the seed coat of each of the seeds.
Mr. Reyna, we're done.
Great. What did you find in the samples?
I had 18 seeds.
That's good.
I had 22 seeds.
I had 22 seeds, and I found out that all locks now have the same numbers of seed.
That's correct. And what did you find?
Oh, I was data man, and I wrote down their numbers for them.
Well, that's great.
I wonder if you would have similar findings with sample bolls.
Hello. Hi.
Boys and girls, this is Troy Lyles. He's the foreman here at Airway Farms, and he's going to be showing us how they use some of this equipment out here.
It's nice to have you here. This machine is a cotton planter that we use to plant cotton with, about 3 inches apart on 30-inch rows. But before we can plant the cotton, we have to prepare the soil with many machines that we use.
What do you mean prepare the soil?
We need to prepare the soil from the previous crop to get ready to make seed beds for the new crop. And one of the first steps is shredding the cotton stalks after they've been picked. After we shred, then we come in with a stubble disc and disc the small pieces of stalk into the ground. This helps put nutrients and organic matter back in the ground. Also, it helps some of the overwintering pests not be pests next year. After we do the stubble disking, then we come in with the ripper and we rip and loosen the soil down about 2 to 2.5 feet deep. This gives next year's plants a good root zone to grow into the loose dirt. The land plane is the next operation, and it helps level the ground and takes out humps and valleys that would cause irrigation water to puddle up. The pre-irrigation is done in February, which gives moisture to the first planted cotton in March and April. After the beds have dried out and we can get in and work with cultivators in March, we prepare the bed for planting. We usually make 2 passes with the cultivator, and then we're ready to plant cotton with this cotton planter.
In much of the world, they still plant their fields by hand.
Yes, but here at the ranch we use mechanical planters. Cotton seed comes in 50-pound bags, and we put the cotton seed in the front hopper of the planter, and insecticide goes in the second hopper of the planter. Let's take a closer look at the planter unit. This is the V-shaped opener in the front of the planter that helps get some of the clods out of the way and level the ground out, so the disc openers behind these gauge wheels can come along and plant the seed about 1 inch below the dirt. Behind that are some press wheels that press a little bit of dirt on top of the seed, and then following that we put a cap on with a crowder of about 3 to 4 inches, and that's the final step in planting the cotton seed.
How does a tractor driver get the rows so straight? Some of the rows are a mile long.
The tractor driver is very experienced, and he follows a mark that's inside the cab. Would you like to see inside the cab?
Yeah!
Well, come on.
Boy, I'd love to drive this.
Come inside.
Be careful with your feet. Hold tight.
Oh, Miss Mercier, can you imagine planting this whole field by hand? It would take forever.
Yes, and in this field, they plant the cotton seeds every 4 inches in rows that are 30 inches wide. I wonder how many seeds they planted here. If you turned your schoolyard into a cotton field, how many seeds would you need? Oh, Tim, Jonathan, come on over here and join the group. Boy.
Sorry, what did we miss?
Well, we were just talking about how long it's been since it rained here, and we couldn't remember. Does anyone remember?
Oh, I know. It rained on my birthday. It's been 4 months.
4 months. Well, I have a question. If it's been 4 months since it rained, these plants are growing. They have to have water.
I can tell you where the water comes. Every winter, it rains here in the valley, and it snows there in the mountains. When spring comes, the snow melts, and it goes to these rivers, which are stopped by dams, which the dams will make big, giant lakes.
reservoirs. The lakes are called reservoirs, and then it goes into the California aqueduct system, and then into irrigation canals that branch off into all different directions, and then finally to here.
So the water would be in that canal, but I still don't see how it gets over into these rows. I don't think you use a bucket.
No, these rows are actually called furrows. And what happens is an irrigation worker gets the water out of those canals down into these furrows through these large plastic pipes like those over there. Come on, let's go look at them. Just be careful.
I still don't see how the water gets over this hump.
Well, Jonathan, think about how a straw works. The worker creates a siphon by putting one end of the pipe into the canal underwater. He covers the top of the other end with his hand. Then he pushes back and forth until air pressure is created. When he uncovers the end and drops the tube, water is siphoned up over the banks of the canal and down into the furrows, where it flows all the way to the end of the field.
I get it. The furrow is lowered in the water level in the canal, so the water flows. There's no water in there now. How do they know when to water the fields?
Pressure. They use pressure again. This time, a technician uses a tool called a pressure chamber. He breaks off a leaf sample at the stalk and puts it into a metal chamber, then closes the top. The top's closed very tightly. Then a gas is pumped into the chamber, making high air pressure. The machine measures the amount of water pressure that is in the leaf. The pressure forces the water to bubble out of the end of the leaf, and at a certain pressure reading, they need to irrigate.
Then you put this tube into the canal, you put your hand on the other end, you shake it up and down until the air is compressed, and you drop it down, and the water goes all the way down the furrow.
I wonder if you could make a model of irrigation. Perhaps aquarium tubes or bendable straws could be made to work much like these irrigation tubes.
Well, it looks like Tim's been on the hunt. I wonder if he's caught anything.
Yeah, I caught something.
Great. You know, kids, there's many animals that live in a cotton field. Some are vertebrate animals such as mice and rabbits, and some are insects. And there's good insects and there's bad insects. And the good insects are beneficials.
What are beneficials?
Beneficials are good bugs that eat the bad bugs.
What kind of pests are out there? I don't see much when I look out over the fields.
Well, one of our biggest pests in cotton is the armyworm. The female moth lays her eggs on top of the leaf, and then after the eggs hatch, the small larvae devour the leaf. As they grow, they can also eat the bracts of the boll, and as they get larger, they can even hollow out the boll.
And what do you do to stop them?
Well, one way is with beneficial insects that feed on the small larvae, such as assassin bugs, minute pirate bugs, and big-eye bugs. One of the greatest natural predators of the armyworm is the hypospora wasp, which lays her egg inside the larvae and feeds on it and kills it. But if the infestation is too large, then we have to resort to insecticides.
Well, how do you know what to do?
That's where you come in. You have the equipment of a scout. The field scout goes out early in the morning when it's nice and cool and the insects are on top of the plant. She'll go out and sweep 100 times to catch and monitor the insects. Then she records what she finds and gives it to me. And then I make the decision whether to apply the insecticides or not. And when we do, we use a tractor with a spray boom on it or an airplane called a crop duster. you're going to take a sample. So let's go out and catch some bugs.
Yeah!
Pictures, okay, let's go.
While our young friends are out finding bugs, I'd like to take some time to assure you that pesticide applications are only used as a last resort. In fact, on a yearly basis, more pesticides are used in the home and garden sector than in agriculture. Only when unwanted bugs in the cotton fields reach a level that the beneficial insects can't control them do we use pesticide applications. This method is called integrated pest management, which has proven to be the best way to protect the land we farm as well as the environment we live in.
I want a bug. You're gonna hit me.
Well, Scouts, what'd you find?
Oh, look at all this cool stuff.
Man.
Ew.
Oh, there's a predator.
Bugs.
There's our armyworm.
Where?
See him right here?
Oh, look at it.
Look
Look at the green one.
Oh, can I take them all home?
No!
Be an insect scout in your own yard. Tie a piece of string, lay it out in a square, count the insects within that square. Then you can estimate how many insects would be in your entire schoolyard. Take your marks, go. Congratulations. We picked 100 plants in 8 minutes and 56 seconds, so I'll round it off to 9 minutes.
I learned that before the machines were built, they picked all cotton this way.
Yes, and in many countries of the world, it's still picked by hand.
What happened to the plants? Last time we were here, they were green and the bowls were closed.
Well, when the plants became mature, the farmers applied something called a defoliant or a desiccant to all these plants. And what that does is it cuts off the water and the food supply to the bowls. So the bowls dry up and they crack open.
Picking up the cotton must be faster with all the bowls opened.
Well, that's the reason that they apply it. When they start to harvest, they want to be as fast as possible to protect the lint from the weather and the rain.
I analyzed our harvest, and each of us picked 20 plants as fast as we could. So we picked 100 plants in 9 minutes, and altogether our cotton lint weighed 5 pounds. So that means if each of us went out there and picked for a minute, each one of us would have brought back 1/9 of a pound. And if we picked out there for an hour, then we would have picked 32 pounds. And I've seen those big cotton pickers working. I wonder how much they can pick in a minute.
Well, we can find out. All we have to do is go over to a field where they're working. Come on. Up at it. It's really something. Whoa, 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 whoa. Stop, stop, stop. Okay, Tim, look. You do the timing.
Okay.
All right, and what you need to do is time it for 30 seconds when this thing starts. And I'm going to follow it out into the field. All right, and what you all have to do is he's going to time it for 30 seconds. And then after 30 seconds, when he tells you, you have to go, Ms. Marcier, you got to give me a good signal so I know when to stop, okay?
Yeah.
Got it? Okay.
Well, I counted 300 plants in the row, but times 4 rows, it would have been 1,200 plants, but that was all he picked for only 30 seconds. If he had done it for a minute, he would have picked 2,400 plants.
I watched the picker pick those plants. It looked like it was eating it. I want to see what's behind those scoops.
Well, let's just go over to a picker that's idle and we can see what's behind those scoops. Come on. Hi, Troy.
Yes.
Jonathan and the rest of us want to know how this picker works, but we especially want to know what's behind these scoops.
Okay. These scoops on the front of the head, they're the plant lifters that help guide the cotton plants into the head. Where the spindles come around that have the barbs on them that help take the locks of cotton out of the bowls, and then the drum that spins it around to the doffer, and it helps take the cotton off of the spindle, and then there's a blower fan that creates a suction over here, and that lifts the cotton up into the basket. And if you'd like to see the doffers and some more of the spindles, we can look over here on the side.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The spindles are on a bar, and each one of these bars is on a drum. And as it rotates, it goes past the moisture pads, and they give it some moisture. When the barbs go out into where the cotton is, the lock of cotton is picked from the bowl, and it's spun around inside the head where it comes over to this doffer, and then the cotton is doffed off, and it goes behind the door where a vacuum takes it up into the basket.
What happens when the baskets are full?
When the basket gets full, we dump it into a module builder or into one of the cotton buggies, and then he dumps it into the module builder. The module builder then compresses the cotton into a large module with a hydraulic cylinder.
Is there any way we could see something like that?
Sure, we can take you over and let you look at one of the module builders.
Come in, come in, come in, come in. Come in. Okay, mark it. Okay, let it in. Let it in, let it in, let it in. Okay. Okay. Got it? All right, what'd you girls find out?
Well, it was 200
Okay. Tim, what are the final measurements?
It was 32 feet long, 7.5 feet tall, and 7 feet wide. 3 of them would fill our classroom.
What do they move the modules with a tractor or a buggy?
Neither one. They use a machine called a module mover, and this pulls the whole module up on top. And then they can transport it to the gin storage yard where it sits and waits until they have time to gin it.
I keep on hearing gin this, gin that. When am I going to find out what ginning means?
Well, that's the next part of our field trip. Remember when you computed how many seeds it would take to plant your entire schoolyard? Well, now pretend that every one of those plants are ready to be harvested. try to compute how long it would take to harvest it, both by hand picking and by mechanical means. Come on, let's get this lint done.
It's heavy.
Once the cotton's been harvested, then the seeds must be separated from the lint. Well, my team's been working here, and they've been separating the seeds and the lint and the trash by hand, just like in the days before the cotton gin was invented. You all have been working about 20 minutes, so what have you found out so far?
From the cotton we sampled, the seeds in the trash had the most mass.
Yeah, we picked 25 grams of seeds, 15 grams of lint, and 5 grams of trash. So that means that exactly a third of our samples was lint.
It was really hard for me to take all the lint off the seeds. There is still some left that I cannot get off.
All that fuzzy stuff on the outside of your seeds, that's called linters, and you really can't get that off by hand. There are machines that will actually pull those linters right off the seeds during ginning.
When will I find out what ginning means?
Very soon. Mr. Hayes is coming. He's the manager of the gin, and he's going to be taking us on the next part of our trip. The huge metal tube is a pneumatic suction device that pulls the seed cotton through pipes into the gin. The principal function of the cotton gin is to separate lint from the seed, but the gin must also remove the leaves, stems, and burrs from the lint.
I'd like to welcome you to Airway Gins. Let's go inside. Okay, let's go back over this way. Right in here is where the first stage of the drying takes place on the cotton. From here it goes over to the first stage pre-cleaning. From there it will go on overhead. Yeah. Don't worry, we shut the gin down for a half hour twice a day. Now you have a few minutes for some questions.
What is a gin?
A gin is short for engine. The gin is the actual machine that separates the fiber from the seed. The entire plant is referred to as the cotton gin. The cotton gin's operation is once it's fed up into the suction pipes, it goes into a stage of pre-cleaning, which takes the larger trash out of the seed cotton. Then it goes into the first stage of drying for the fiber. After the first stage of drying, it goes into more pre-cleaning, taking out more trash, into a second stage of drying. You can see it going through right there. Okay, come over this way. It goes overhead into more pre-cleaning over here into the actual gin stand. From the second stage of drying into more pre-cleaning and then into the actual gin machine. This is the machine that actually takes the fiber from the seed. That's what the seed looks like after the fiber's removed. From the gin machine, the fiber goes back to lint cleaners, which actually takes out the fine pin trash from the fiber and combs the lint, prepping it for the mills. This is the machine that cleans the lint and combs the lint after it's taken from the seed. Okay, let's go to the press. From the lint cleaning, it goes to a condenser, which distributes it down into a lint slide. Some people refer to it as a river of cotton. This is the press, the final stage of the ginning operation. The cotton comes down the slide into a twin box below the floor called a tramper box. Once there is 500 pounds of lint in one of the tramper boxes, it rotates, changing places with an empty box. As the empty box is filled, the lint is lifted out of the full box and compressed into a universal density bale. This process runs day and night, producing up to 500 bales of cotton in 24 hours. After the bale is compressed, 2 men tie the bale out. When they are finished, the bale cart comes forward, picks up the bale, and brings it back to a conveyor. The conveyor pushes the bale into the bagging chute where a yellow plastic bag is slipped on. The bale is then weighed on a scale and tagged for identification. When this process is complete, the bale is conveyed outside. A tractor takes the finished bales to the loading dock where they are loaded onto trucks.
Okay.
A bale like this is a universal density bale. It has the standard height, width, and length. It weighs approximately between 480 and 500 pounds.
Yeah, it's 54 inches high, 31 inches wide, and 21 inches thick, which is about 19 cubic feet.
This bale is compressed to a density of 28 pounds per cubic foot.
What does density mean?
I can take your fluffy sample of cotton here, and with some pressure, I can condense it down to a greater density.
Like the press inside.
Yeah.
Hey, what's that over there?
That's our loader. She uses a forklift to load the bales, stack the bales in the most efficient manner for shipping. The bales are shipped in containers or flatbed trailers, either one. If they go on containers, they'll go to port, either to Oakland or to San Diego or to Long Beach. If they're loaded on flatbed trucks, they could go to warehouses anywhere from Fresno to Bakersfield or to warehouses at port, such as Trans-Meridian in Oakland.
Try to make an actual model of a bale of cotton out of rolled newspapers, meter sticks, or even an appliance box. Now imagine you're going to completely fill your classroom with bales and bales of cotton. How many would fit? And what's the most efficient way to fit them in the classroom? The final question is, if each of those bales weighs about 500 pounds, how much will all your bales and bales of cotton weigh? you've seen the workings of the gin, and you know how cotton is processed and shipped. Well, as your teacher, I take your work and I assess it and I assign it a grade. Well, cotton also gets a grade here at the classing office. Ms. Jordan runs that office and she's here to explain classing to us.
Hi, Miss Jordan.
Hi.
The lint that I pulled off the seed is soft and kind of long.
Well, the strings are called fibers, and the fiber length is one of the characteristics that we judge in grading cotton. The standards are all set by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and we use their standards in our grading.
How do you do classing?
It's a combination of machinery and the classer. This looks pretty good. It's probably about a 21 color, and the fiber length is determined now by machinery. But before we had machines, the classer would actually pull the fibers and determine the length. This is probably about a 36 length, but now this is all done by machinery.
What kind of machines do you use?
If you'd like to come in, we can see the machines run.
Sure.
This is an airlock system to keep the hot air and the humidity from the outside out. We keep our classing area at 70 degrees on temperature and 65 on humidity. And when that door closes, this door will open if you'll press that button.
Wow, it feels like Star Trek. Where do you get the samples for class?
The samples come up from the gin. A sample is cut out of every bale. The first thing that happens, the sample is brought up here and it is either left in this room for 48 hours or we put it on a unit that's called a rapid conditioning unit. And that is forcing the moisture that is in this room that is at 65 humidity through the sample. And then we have to test it for moisture to make sure that it has the right moisture content. And this greatly affects the strength. So we want everything to be at the proper conditions before we test the cotton on our instrument line. The line that we're using here is an Ooster HVI, which means high volume instrument. And this is designed only to class cotton. The first thing the HVI operator does is scan the card that she takes from the sample. And that has the gin number and it has a bale number. And this information that's created stays with that number all through the history of this bale. The first test, if you can see here, is the color and trash reading from the HVI line. Then she takes a part of the sample and puts it on the micronair scale. The micronair is the fiber fineness and maturity. From there, the sample goes into our other tester, which is testing for strength, length, and uniformity. All of this information is generated and goes into the computer. From there, we take it to the classer. The classer is trained to look for the amount of leaf and extraneous matter. She also looks through the sample to see if there's any foreign matter, such as grass, bark, any other thing that would have to have a discount on the cotton. At this time, the cotton is classed using the instrument and the classer. In the future, this may be done just by the instrument line.
We've become experts at ginning and classing cotton. I challenge you to take apart bolls from a field like we did. You'll need to gather enough data to compute the percentage of lint, seeds, and trash from your sample. And then you can do some research and even class your sample. Our trip to the cotton gin ends here at the seed pile. These seeds from the cotton bolls come through these vacuum pipes overhead, and then they're dumped into these piles that resemble small mountains. How many seeds do you think we have here?
Billions.
Well, we could count them all, but I'd be a very old man by the time we finish, so we should just go ask someone how many pounds they sold at the end of the year.
Hey, these seeds still have lint on them.
Yes, most of these seeds are used to feed cattle, but they do send some of them to a delinting plant where they pull the lint off the seeds. Now, the lint is used for everyday items, and then the seeds are covered with a fungicide, and they're used again next year for planting in the spring.
At the gin, the lint goes into the bales, and the seeds come out here. So where did the trash go?
Oh, the trash and the leaves and the twigs, they're all composted and put right back into the soil. Nothing is wasted. The entire cotton boll is used.
Our clothes are made out of woven cotton lint, but I can't think of that many uses for seeds and linters.
Oh, I told you I did some research. These cotton seeds are pressed, and they can get oil out of them. The oil is used for many different things, such as shortening and fat-free potato chips and margarine. And then the linters go into cushions and cellophane and photographic film and even explosives. Now I want you to brainstorm about how cotton is used in your own house. Jonathan, what's in your bedroom?
Pajamas, pillowcases, pillow stuffing, slippers, sheets, blankets, socks, or my teddy bear.
Okay. Chrissy, what about in your closet and drawers?
Pants, shirts, socks, shoes, hair scrunchies, coats, suits, jackets, and underwear.
Jingle. What about in the kitchen?
Curtains, wall hangings, tablecloth, placemats, napkins, dishcloth, seats, pads, rugs, and aprons and pot holders.
Tim, travel.
Sleeping bags, backpack, suitcase, rope, thread, twine, tent.
Whoa, slow down, slow down. Good job. Now, we have learned so much about the life cycle of cotton. Tell me what you remember.
First, you have to prepare the soil and then plant the seeds.
Then you gotta irrigate and manage the pests.
Then at harvest time, you have to bring in these monstrous machines that eat the cotton and smash them into modules.
And then you have to gin the bolls from the seeds and then smash it onto bales and ship it off to the markets.
Finally, you get your seeds back and you have to start all over again.
Oh, good grief! What are you laughing at? Oh, you kids are just crazy about cotton.
Okay, we're gonna roll camera.
Camera rolling.
Glad to have you here.
Sorry, what did we miss?
Well, we were just talking about how long it's been since it rained here.
Oh, I know. It was May 15th. It rained on the other day.
Move it. And you won't ever do that again.
Let's take a closer look at the planter unit.
Tim, you're not the leader.
It was 32 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, and 7 feet. So,
Rolling camera and action.
Mr. Ray,
And action.
I get it. The furrow is lower than the sea level. Oh, sea level.
Cut.
What is it, Jane?
Just too low.
Look at me.
Ready, correct. Okay, let's get set again.
The cotton boll starts out as a square. Man, I'm forgetting what I'm supposed to do here. From here, the boll dries out. slits open along the carpal area.
Okay, and action. Okay.
There's no water in there now. Come on.
Rolling. And action.
We've become experts at ginning and classing cotton. I challenge you to go to some fields, get some bowls, and do the same thing we did. I'm sorry. That wasn't as good. I can tell.